Illinois residents struggling with medical debt may soon get some relief.
Yesterday, Governor Pritzker signed 2 bills to help ease the burden on people who might owe medical debt. Illinois Capitol Bureau Chief Max Cotton explains.
More than 340,000 Illinoisans will be getting some unexpected help paying their medical bills. The state is spending $10 million to establish a fund to purchase and forgive their medical debt.
This low-cost program to eliminate medical debt will alleviate a major burden on families across Illinois.
Originally proposed during his State of the State address, Pritzker says the state can buy $1 of medical debt for just a penny. This means the $10 million investment will allow the state to forgive $1 billion worth of debt.
It's preventing individuals and families from attaining financial stability.
To be eligible, a family of 4 would need to make less than 400% of the federal poverty level, about $125,000, and their debt must be worth at least 5% of their annual income. Everybody who racks up medical debt in Illinois starting in 2025, however, will be eligible for a different type of relief. That's because Pritzker also signed legislation Tuesday barring credit agencies from using medical debt accrued in the state when creating someone's credit report.
Medical debt is different than other debt. It's spontaneous.
Democratic State Senator Steve Stottleman sponsored the bill. He says research shows medical debt is not an accurate metric for someone's credit risk.
You cannot predict when you get sick or suffer an injury. You may be the best financial planner in the world, having paid all your bills, but unexpectedly get sick and suddenly you can't pay your bills.
This law does not mean people would be free from paying their medical debts. It also doesn't stop collections companies from going after someone who owes debt, including potentially seizing assets and garnishing wages. In Springfield, Max Cotton, WGEM News.